Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaudavani Acharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Prabhupada Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai
Jai.
Jai Gaur Premanande
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone.
Hari.
Dr. Adam.
Yes.
You can call the buyer of Tapasvi. Harry Bowl. Diving right in. Glad you're here. All right, give me 1 second here. All right. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 30. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayat Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hibhadrani Vidhunoti Sahrit Satam Ashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Alright. Text 30. Sarvedam sasarjagre bhagavanatma mayaya sarasadrupaya chasau gunamaya gunavibu. In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. Purport. The position of the Lord is always transcendental because the causal and effectual energies required for the creation of the material world were also created by him. He is unaffected, therefore, by the qualities of the material modes. His existence, form, activities, and paraphernalia all existed before the material creation. He is all spiritual and has nothing to do with the qualities of the material world, which are qualitatively distinct from the spiritual qualities of the Lord. Taya vilasiteshveshu guneshu gunavanava antapravishta abhati vijnanena vrajanbitaha. After creating the material substance, the Lord, Vasudeva, expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. Purport. Howdy, Bo. Dr. Matt, welcome. We are reading Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 31, just starting the purport. So, hope you're well. Hare Krishna. Purport. Here, I'll read the verse again. After creating the material substance, the Lord, Vasudeva, expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. Purport. The living entities are separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and the conditioned living entities who are unfit for the spiritual kingdom are strewn within the material world to enjoy matter to the fullest extent. As Paramatma and eternal friend of the living entities, the Lord, by one of his plenary portions, accompanies the living entities to guide them in their material enjoyment and to become witness to all activities. While the living entities enjoy the material conditions, the Lord maintains his transcendental position without being affected by the material atmosphere. In the Vedic literatures, Shruti, it is said that there are two birds in one tree. One of them is eating the fruit of the tree, while the other is witnessing the actions. The witness is the Lord, and the fruit eater is the living entity. The fruit eater, living entity, has forgotten his real identity and is overwhelmed in the fruitive activities of the material conditions. But the Lord, Paramatma, is always full in transcendental knowledge. That is the difference between the supersoul and the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, the living entity, is controlled by the laws of nature, while the Paramatma, or the supersoul, is the controller of the material energy. Ita hyavahito vanir dharushveka svayonishu naneva bhati vishvatma bhuteshu cha tatapuman. The Lord as Supersoul pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood, and so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second. Purport. Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by one of his plenary parts, expands himself all over the material world, and his existence can be perceived even within the atomic energy. Matter, antimatter, proton, neutron, and so on are all different effects of the Paramatma feature of the Lord. As from wood, fire can be manifested, or as butter can be churned out of milk, so also the presence of the Lord as Paramatma can be felt by the process of legitimate hearing and chanting of the transcendental subjects, which are especially treated in the Vedic literatures like the Upanishads and Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam is the bona fide explanation of these Vedic literatures. The Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. I'll read that again. The Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. His divine grace, the spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. Therefore, one is required to approach the proper spiritual master with receptive ears only, and thus divine existence is gradually realized. The difference between animality and humanity lies in this process only. A human being can hear properly, whereas an animal cannot. Wow, that's an amazing verse of purport right there. It's so nice for what we're doing. Asagunamayar bhavar bhuta shukshmendriyatma bihi swanirmiteshu nirvishto bhunkte bhuteshu tadgunan. The Supersoul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Purport. There are 8,400,000 species of living beings, beginning from the highest intellectual being, Brahma, down to the insignificant ant, and all of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and gross material body. The gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind, and the senses are created according to the desire of the living being. The Lord as Paramatma helps the living being to get material happiness because the living being is helpless in all respects in obtaining what he desires. He proposes and the Lord disposes. In another sense, the living beings are parts and parcels of the Lord. They are therefore one with the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings in all varieties of bodies have been claimed by the Lord as his sons. The sufferings and enjoyments of the sons are indirectly the sufferings and enjoyments of the Father. Still, the Father is not in any way affected directly by the suffering and enjoyment of the sons. He is so kind that he constantly remains with the living being as Paramatma and always tries to convert the living being towards the real happiness. Bhavayatyesha satvena lokan vailoka bhavanaha ilavatara nurato devatiryanyaradishu. Thus the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. Purport. There are innumerable material universes, and in each and every universe there are innumerable planets inhabited by different grades of living entities in different modes of nature. The Lord, Vishnu, incarnates himself in each and every one of them and in each and every type of living society. He manifests his transcendental pastimes amongst them just to create the desire to go back to Godhead. The Lord does not change his original transcendental position, but he appears to be differently manifested according to the particular time, circumstances, and society. Sometimes he incarnates himself or empowers a suitable living being to act for him. But in either case, the purpose is the same. The Lord wants the suffering living being to go back home, back to Godhead. The happiness which the living beings are hankering for is not to be found within any corner of the innumerable universes and material planets. The eternal happiness which the living being wants is obtainable in the kingdom of God, but the forgetful living beings under the influence of the material modes have no information of the kingdom of God. The Lord therefore comes to propagate the message of the kingdom of God, either personally as an incarnation or through his bona fide representative as the good Son of God. Such incarnations or sons of God are not making propaganda for going back to Godhead only within the human society. Their work is also going on in all types of societies amongst demigods and those other than human beings. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Divinity and Divine Service. Woo-hoo! We did
Yay!
Yay!
Heavy.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody have any reflections? I mean, that was kind of a nectar little section there. Whew, a nectar conclusion to a nectar chapter. I like when he said, basically, the difference between animality and humanity lies in this process only. A human being can hear properly, whereas an animal cannot. It's amazing. Really pinpointing the quality of what it means to hear in a different kind of way. Let me see, 1 second. Okay.
I have a quick question, Prabhuji. So,
Okay.
in that way, because it is stated how like the human life is a very high birth, that we have these different levels in our knowledge to decipher things, and in the consciousness, it's a way, as I see, animals can live transcendentally, but they are working on karmic platforms all the time, instinctually, and even the ones that aren't, they're working it out in that way. So to have human birth, and then like, isn't it a way that we could like work further to be beyond the karmas and come directly to Godhead?
You mean in a human form as opposed to an animal form?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I've heard it described as like in the material world, as like a hotel. Like you just. Well, first of all, the analogy part of it is, it's home, but in a hotel you enter through the ground floor, and then you can go up or down to different floors. And basically, the human form of life is compared to the ground floor, where people can like leave the hotel, whereas, and it's not like a staunch rule all across the board. There are circumstances where a dog can get liberation, or somebody else, but generally speaking, the human form of life is like the opportunity to kind of get out of the cycle of samsara, whereas typically lower or like animal forms, or they don't have the capacity really, like you're saying, they're working out like a karmic debt, so to speak. And then like in a higher, like demigods tend to be kind of attached to their enjoyment and stuff, even though they may also be devotees. The tendency for them is also to come back down because they're not free from that attachment. So like the human form is like considered like the best because most favorable, and we also have the capacity for understanding God, whereas like animals don't. So I don't know if that really answers it, but what do you think?
Yeah, I was feeling like that's the topic point. Yeah, that I mean, in great instances, maybe the Vrikshas or something incarnated somewhere and being there, and Lord Chaitanya, or just different pastimes. They're automatically in a transcendental realm. So there probably could have even been human birth and came back like that. But in general, like the animal forms and different life forms have a different capacity of being able to, again, hear, chant, and act on more of a conscious level than strictly an instinctual level and karmic level.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously we hear examples of, like Maharaj Bharat was in the form of a deer, but he was fully conscious. So, there's always exception to the rule, but generally speaking, yeah. Yeah, usually, if we take birth in an animal body, uh, usually we have a certain, like, systematic or progressive climb back to human form, you know. It's actually explained a lot in Bhagavatam later on. It's explained that, like, like when a demigod falls back down or whatever, like they enter into the rains, and usually those rains are dropped during like a divya snan, which means like whenever the sun's out but the rain's falling at the same time, divya snan. And they go, and then they fall in the rains, and then take birth in the form of grains, and then they're eaten by different living entities, and then they take the form of semen, and then take birth in different forms. That's all explained later on in Bhagavatam. It's kind of interesting to hear the progression. Yeah. Yeah, nice point, Prabhuji. Any other points? Anybody? Okay, I might not really read too long this evening. Kind of have some things I'm supposed to do, but I wanted to at least start reading. I might actually stop there, if that's acceptable. Get like a little, at least something, some nectar session. Let me see. I'll read at least one more here. Chapter 3. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Text 1. Sutta uvacha jagrehe parusham rupam bhagavan maharadibihi sambhutam sodashakalam ada adaloka shashrikshaya. Sutta said, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus, at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose of creating the material universe. Purport. The Bhagavad Gita states that the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, maintains these material universes by extending his plenary expansions. So this Purusha form is the confirmation of the same principle. The original personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, who is famous as the son of King Vasudeva or King Nanda, is full with all opulences, all potencies, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. Part of his opulences are manifested as impersonal Brahman, and part of his opulences are manifested as Paramatma. This Purusha feature of the same personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the original Paramatma manifestation of the Lord. There are three Purusha features in the material creation, and this form, who is known as the Karanadakashayi Vishnu, is the first of the three. The others are known as the Garbhadakashayi Vishnu and the Kshiradakashayi Vishnu, which we shall know one after another. The innumerable universes are generated from the skin holes of this Karanadakashayi Vishnu, and in each one of the universes the Lord enters as Garbhadakashayi Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also mentioned that the material world is created at certain intervals and then again destroyed. This creation and destruction is done by the supreme will because of the conditioned souls or the Nitya Buddha living beings. The Nitya Buddha, or the eternally conditioned souls, have the sense of individuality or ahankar, which dictates them sense enjoyment, which they are unable to have constitutionally. The Lord is the only enjoyer, and all others are enjoyed. The living beings are predominated enjoyers. But the eternally conditioned souls, forgetful of this constitutional position, have strong aspirations to enjoy. The chance to enjoy matter is given to the conditioned souls in the material world, and side by side they are given the chance to understand their real constitutional position. Those fortunate living entities who catch the truth and surrender unto the lotus feet of Vasudeva after many, many births in the material world join the eternally liberated souls and thus are allowed to enter into the kingdom of Godhead. After this, such fortunate living entities need not come again within the occasional material creation. But those who cannot catch the constitutional truth are again merged into the Mahat Tattva at the time of the annihilation of the material creation. When the creation is again set up, this Mahat Tattva is again let loose. This Mahat Tattva contains all the ingredients of the material manifestations, including the conditioned souls. Hold on a second. Okay. Including the conditioned souls. Primarily, this Mahat Tattva is divided into 16 parts, namely the 5 gross material elements and the 11 working instruments or senses. It is like the cloud in the clear sky. In the spiritual sky, the effulgence of Brahman is spread all around, and the whole system is dazzling in spiritual light. The Mahat Tattva is assembled in some corner of the vast, unlimited spiritual sky, and the part which is thus covered by the Mahat Tattva is called the material sky. This part of the spiritual sky, called the Mahat Tattva, is only an insignificant portion of the whole spiritual sky. And within this Mahat Tattva there are innumerable universes. All these universes are collectively produced by the Karanadakashayi Vishnu, called the Mahavishnu, who simply throws his glance to impregnate the material sky. Totally transcendental. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Jai.
Jay.
Hari bol, Prabhuji's. Any points anybody wants to make? Just nice to hear.
Nimble. Happy to hear, Babaji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, if I'm not really feeling that great and I got a bunch of stuff I got to do, I've kind of been putting off the last day or so. And I'm thinking, have a little shorter one today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm.
Jai
Thank
Shri
you.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hey.
Vanchakalpatarubhishcha
Pratulishcha
Kripasindhubhya
Sindhubhya
Patitanam
Titanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Namo
Namaha
Namaha.
Nattakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
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 Thank you so much, Prabhujis. Very much appreciate you being here.
Jai. Jai.
I will be here again tomorrow, same time. So I hope everybody has a good evening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari.